Good morning, dear students. Welcome back. Today we are going to study an important topic prescribed in your syllabus, analytical writing. Yes, we'll talk about what analytical writing is and how to write it. We'll be discussing the format and all the essentials of writing an analytical paragraph. So first of all, we need to understand what analytical writing is. An analytical paragraph is a form of descriptive writing which is written on the basis of a given chart, graph, data, outline, clues, table, etc. When writing an analytical paragraph, you should remember to describe the facts in the best possible manner and to cover the information provided. That's very important. It needs to be written in around 100 to 120 words. The paragraph that you write must be clear and you must use clear and crisp language along with providing complete details of the chart given in the question. And there will be an internal choice as well. You need to attempt one question out of the two questions of analytical paragraph given as choice. And the question carries 5 marks. So you all need to keep all the points in mind while writing an analytical paragraph. Now, after talking about what analytical paragraph is, let's talk about the features of an analytical paragraph. As I shared, it describes the given chart, table, data, graph, and cues, etc. It should be brief and comprehensive. It must include complete information at the same time. It should state facts that are provided by the chart. And it is necessary to make use of simple and accurate language. It should mention figures and quantities appropriately. It is appropriate to use the same tense throughout the analytical paragraph. No personal observation or response should be provided. Now, let's look at the format of an analytical paragraph. It shall be divided into 3 parts. Introduction, where you need to explain. You need to write in 1 or 2 lines the subject of the graph given, followed by the body of the paragraph, where you explain in detail what the graph is all about, use relevant figures, explain trends, make comparisons and contrast, divide into sub-paragraphs if required. Followed by conclusion, where you need to conclude the paragraph giving the overall view or summary of the paragraph. Now, let's look at all these in detail. The introduction. So it is the first paragraph that should describe in brief what the graph is all about. It should be like an opening paragraph, which introduces the reader to the context of the chart given. When writing the introductory paragraph, you need not go into the details. You just need to mention what is clearly evident from the chart of the graph given in the question. It is best to write the introduction in 1 or 2 lines. Then comes the body of the paragraph. This part of the analytical paragraph should contain details of the graph or chart given in the question. It must contain all the important information, and it is extremely important to choose the significant details that should be included in the paragraph. The body can be broken into 2 or 3 subparagraphs depending on the information extracted from the graph. So you need to extract the information from the graph and then you can break the body into subparagraphs. It makes it easy for the reader to understand. Organizing information. You should look for the large differences that are very prominent. You can mention the aspect which is the smallest or the largest in the data given. Comparing information. If the chart mentions 2 different parties, for example, men and women, refer to both of them in the analytical paragraph. If there is any contrast or comparison that could be drawn, you must present it effectively. That's very important when you are asked to compare something. Mentioning quantities. When including numbers and figures, their accuracy must be ensured. There are a number of ways that can be used to describe quantities. For example, percentage, fraction, ratios, etc. It depends upon the question asked. Connecting sentences. If different information or ideas are there, you should use connectors or linking phrases to link them logically. The sentence of the paragraph should be sequential and connected rationally. So you need to maintain the logical sequence throughout. That's very important while writing an analytical paragraph. It is followed by the conclusion. The last paragraph should summarize the idea mentioned and the information in general. It should be concluding in nature and act as the closing statement. One should keep in the mind that one must not include any personal opinions. That should be avoided while writing an analytical paragraph. So you cannot give any personal opinion, conclusion or observation. You should simply stick to the facts. Now let's have a look at some useful tips for writing an analytical paragraph. For introduction, you can start with the following phrases. The chart given above describes. So what it describes, you can write that. Or if it's a table, you can write the table suggests. If it's a graph, you can write the line graph shows. So depending upon the question, you need to write what it is showing or suggesting or describing depending upon the question. For describing trends, use phrases and words like pattern of growth, rapidly doubled, skyrocketed, striking, increase, soaring rates, declined, depending upon the question. For describing quantities, use various styles like 48% off, 1/3 off, nearly 1/4 off, the highest, the lowest, etc. For establishing relationship or contrast, use phrases and words like relationship between, similarly, in contrast with, in comparison to, etc. For conclusion and other connecting phrases, use overall, subsequently, in all, in a nutshell, right? So these are some of the useful tips for writing an analytical paragraph. Now let's have a look at this question. It's a graph showing birth and death rates in a country from 1901 to 2101. So you can be asked to write an analytical paragraph in 100 to 150 words. So how you are going to do that? Obviously, the first thing that you have to do is to think of an appropriate introduction. So you can begin like the graph shows birth and death rates starting from 1901 till 2101, and it is followed by the main body, right? So you can begin since 1901. The birth rate has remained more than the death rate, so you are comparing until 2041 and then continue accordingly. On the other hand, the death rate stood at around 10,000 in 1901 and then has increased steadily, right? So at the end, you can write the graph shows the huge gap between birth rate and death during 1961 to 2001. However, this gap is expected to reduce in the later years. Overall, as opposed to the prevailing trends, the death rate will be more than the birth rate in the later half of the 21st century. So this is how you can conclude your analytical paragraph, right? Now let's have a look at question number 2. Now this chart shows the division of household tasks by gender in Great Britain. You can be asked to write an analytical paragraph to describe a chart in not more than 200 words. So here also you have to begin like the chart shows the number of minutes per day spent by British men and women in doing household tasks. And then in the main body you can write the task on which women spend more time than men include cooking, cleaning house, taking care of the children and laundry. In doing all these tasks and so on. At the end you can write in short. So this is how you can conclude. Women spend far more time doing household chores than men, whilst men prefer to do gardening, pet care and maintaining odd jobs. I hope you all understood how to attempt an analytical writing. Now let's talk more about analytical writing. Now, if you look at this question, you can be asked to write an analytical paragraph in about 100 to 120 words based on given outline, data, chart, or cues. And you need to answer in just 100 to 120 words, and 1 out of 2 questions is to be answered, and it will be of 5 marks. So, you need to write just 1 paragraph. So first of all, what you need to do is you need to analyze the trends. Once you analyze the trends, you can paraphrase the question. You can give an appropriate introduction, followed by the body and the conclusion. So introduction and conclusion you can write in 30 to 40 words approximately, not more than that, and rest of the paragraph, or you can say the main body, can be written in 90 to 100 words where you need to explain the trends, right? Now, here one needs to analyze the year-wise percentage of attendance in secondary schools of India in a paragraph of 100 to 120 words. So you all can see this. You need to analyze the trends. There are trends given. You need to analyze the trends. Once you do that, you need to start writing your analytical paragraph. And you know how to write it effectively now because we have already discussed that. So, keeping all the points in mind, you can start writing. But what is the first thing that you all need to do? You need to think about it first. You need to talk about it first. So when you are in the class, you can always discuss with your classmates before writing. Just think about it, talk about it, dissect the question, and then write. As you can see, it's a table showing the year-wise percentage of attendance in 4 different types of schools in India from 2000 to 2015, recorded with a gap of 5 years. So how you're going to analyze it? That is the question, right? Now you all can see a chart, and this chart is showing the participation of young people in the 2019 annual sports event from schools in Delhi. And you need to write a paragraph in 100 to 120 words based on your analysis of the data. So data has been given. You need to analyze it properly, and then you can start writing your analytical paragraph. But that analysis is very important, right? So this is how we go about it. Now, you all can see a chart showing participation of young people from the schools in Delhi in the 2019 annual sports event. Young people includes boys and girls, right? So this blue bar shows boys and this red bar shows girls, right? So you can analyze the trends and begin your writing accordingly. But while writing an analytical paragraph, please keep important points in mind. What are those important points? I repeat, you need to use the appropriate language for each time. You need to describe the most general trends. Avoid writing anything irrelevant. Create range of expressions. Use a few different ways to say the same thing to avoid repetition. Why to use the same word again and again? So you can make it little interesting by using the different words or looking for different ways to express the same thing. So this way you will be able to avoid repetition, right? You can start the paraphrase with one of the given prompts. So how to begin? As I shared while discussing the question, you can begin with the given diagram shows or represents the comparison of. So what is actually happening? So once you see the question, you can write accordingly. These are some of the describing trends. Verbs to describe increase. So what are the other words that you can use? As I said that you should always avoid repetition. So what are the other verbs to describe increase in something, or the words to describe decrease in something? In a similar way, adverbs to describe how it has been done. The manner, adverb of manner, sharply, quickly, rapidly, steeply, and how to describe. So these are some of the important points which you all need to keep in mind while writing an analytical paragraph and to make it an interesting affair, right? Now this is your word order. Again, few describing trends. So subject, verb and adverb. Keep the subject in mind and write verb accordingly and verb as well. So, for example, sales fell slightly, prices dropped sharply. Then there plus B plus A. There is a slight rise in sales. There was a gradual fall in the price of something. There has been a dramatic drop in the rate. So what are you saying? You have to write that, because now you have analyzed the trend, you're describing it. So this is how you can describe it, right? Now again, verb plus adverb. So what are the verbs that can be used? Like after seeing the question, you can use these verbs and adverbs in a similar way. Adjective plus noun. So alter, approximately, decline dramatically, or downward decline, gradual decrease, huge drop, sharp fall, like this. So this will definitely make your writing interesting, and the reader will take keen interest in reading your writing. In a similar way, fractions can be written as like 4%. For 4%, you can write a tiny fraction. For approximate data, write approximately or nearly or roughly. So this is how you can write it. How do we link the ideas in different sentences to each other? We can do so by using linking words and transition words. I hope you all are aware of that. The connectors. So you all can use connectors. Linking words. As you can see, for emphasis, you can use words like undoubtedly, indeed, obviously. For addition, you can use additionally, furthermore. For contrast, you can use words like unlike, nevertheless, on the other hand. For order, first, firstly, secondly can be used. For result, as a consequence. Illustration, for example, such as. For comparison, similarly, equally, likewise. For summary, reason, condition. Depending upon the question, you can use these linking words, and it will definitely add to your writing. To provide a result, you can write therefore, as a result. To concede a point, you can write nevertheless, despite. To highlight a point, you can write in particular, mainly, or specifically, because you want to highlight a point. And to make a comparison, you can write correspondingly, likewise, additionally, etc. So wow, I feel that analytical writing is an interesting affair. So you have to make it interesting the way you are going to express yourself. So take it as a challenge and express yourself well. So these are the 4 steps to write good analysis. Fantastic 4: the premise, factual errors and omissions, options, easier alternatives, and the conclusion. So these are some of the suggestive phrases. So let's understand what the premise is. It's the basic assertion or assumption on which the truth of the argument is based. If the premise is wrong, the argument stands incorrect. So first of all, you need to look for the main assumption of the argument. You need to ask questions about it. Is it factually correct? Is it just an opinion? Does it leave anything out? So you need to ask questions about it. So this is how you analyze. And then point out. Making money is an important part of business, but not the only part. So you need to point out. Factual errors or omissions. You need to identify any facts or other information which are used to support the argument. Set the context. Here, child labor is being discussed as advantageous for business. Right? Because you can see this statement, the only point of business is to make money. Child labor is cheaper, so businesses should only use child labor. So step 3, check if the information is correct and complete in this context. It is correct that child labor is cheaper, but it is also illegal, and so it is not advantageous for business. Right? This is how you can write in your answer. Then options, easier alternatives. Identify other options. Think of viable alternatives. Alternatives, what can they be? So here you all need to think about it and you can write accordingly, and it is followed by the conclusion, where you need to identify the conclusion, how you can give an appropriate conclusion to your question. Remember, the conclusion is not always the last statement. Check if the conclusion logically follows other statements. Right? Let's have a look at the Fantastic Four once again. The premise. The argument assumes that the premise of the text is that, like this, factual errors and omissions. The third one is easier alternatives and the conclusion. So these are the suggestive phrases which you all can keep in mind while writing an analytical paragraph. Right? This will definitely help you in writing in a better way. So I repeat, the premise, factual errors, omissions, easier alternatives, and the conclusion. Now, let me explain the two types of cues. So in your question, you can have issue type or argument type of cues. Now, what are these? Issue type can be any general topic, any debatable issue. Argument type can be any specific topic, a case presented by an author. In issue type cues, like, you must involve relevant real-world examples that support your chosen stance. The concluding sentences involve a sentence agreeing with the opposing viewpoint before the final sentence expressing your view. An argument type, you can create own examples as long as they are relevant to the given topic and efficiently substantiate the argument. The concluding statements end on a note of doubt, where you claim that the argument may have one or more valid points but is otherwise flawed. So this is how we can differentiate between issue type and argument type cues. I hope you all understood it. So you need to find out if the question is issue type or argument type. Now let's have a look at the issue-based question. Religious celebrations that cause any kind of pollution should be banned. Write a response in which you discuss the extent to which you agree or disagree with the statement. Explain your reasoning for the position you take by considering ways in which the statement might or might not hold true. So you can begin with an introduction. Hook the reader and state your most important inference. Agree with the given issue. Bring up the negative side of the issue with examples and support. And you can conclude by reiterating your view. So this is your issue-based question, and this can be asked like this. Religious celebrations that cause any kind of pollution should be banned. Now let's have a look at argument-based question. A recent national survey found that the majority of workers with access to internet at work had used company computers for personal or recreational activities such as banking or playing games. In an effort to improve our employees' productivity, we should implement electronic monitoring of employees' internet use from their workstations, installing software on company computers to detect employees' internet use is the best way to prevent employees from wasting time on the job. So you can begin with an introduction where you can describe the premise and point out the flaws or state your intention. Detail first assumption, explain problems with it and how to weaken or strengthen the argument. Repeat for second assumption and for the third assumption as well. And you can conclude by evaluating the strength of the argument based on the assumptions. These are some of the key features of analytical writing. So you all need to keep these in mind: organization, grammar, sentence, clarity, vocabulary, reasoning, and evidence. So I hope analytical writing is easily understood. You have understood it well, and you are definitely going to write it in an effective manner. In case of any doubt, feel free to ask. Thank you so much for listening. Take good care of yourself.